How's it, guys? Kooks here. Welcome to another episode of the Rugby Bits Pod. I'm sure you were surprised to hear my voice, especially after Finn Russell did not make the end of the year tour squad. But I'm here to lick my wounds, especially with Jared here. Yeah, it's been an eventful weekend, but yeah, happy to be back here for another episode. Myself and Jared are on. Shaun is fighting all the technical difficulties, and between load shedding and technical difficulties, it is a hard time to be a podcaster in 2022 at the moment. But at the moment, yeah, I'm here with Jared and excited for another episode, obviously brought to you by bet.co.za, and it's been quite an interesting weekend of rugby this weekend, but happy to be here. Jared, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, Cooks. Good to you. Good to have you back on the podcast. And I've heard the rumors that you're actually here because you heard that Tyler was going to be on, and his man Adam Hastings made the squad. So that's why you're willing to take it on with our team being here.
100%. And when I heard Tyler was not going to be, I was like, I'll even host for the day. That's how confident I
Yeah,
was. But
exactly. I think
Jared, I mean,
we can chat on that a little bit. Like you say, you licking your wounds about Finn, but he actually had a quality game. Like he really hit back from that snub quickly and went. And like Townsend said to him, "Oh no, you're not my kind of chef," and then he went and cooked for us.
yeah, 100%. It was weird because on the Friday, Adam Hastings had that drop goal as well from just playing his half a line. So he was basically the talk of the town all of Friday night and Saturday morning. And Finn cooked this weekend. He had a great game. But did you hear Finn's comment about saying that he's actually glad he's on the squad because he's tired of going back and forth and he can sort of have a bit of stability. So I definitely think there's something in the camp there between Gregor and Finn. I mean, obviously, we know the issues are well documented, but yeah, were you surprised to see him not in the squad, Jared?
I think whenever they name a Scotland squad, there's always a surprise or two, and like just Finn not being there is a big call. So Townsend never really surprises me because he's like a mad scientist. Like he's never quite sure about what he wants to do next, and his selections are always all over the place. Like yeah, like poor Sam Johnson's the starting center and has a great game, and the next week he's dropped entirely from the squad. Like he's that kind of coach. So I was somewhat surprised, but also at this thing around Kinghorn playing 10, it doesn't surprise me too much, if you know what I mean.
No, 100%. I mean, it's always been a classic Gregor Charles. I mean, like Adam Hastings wasn't even in the squad to start the season as well. So in the June test, so in Scotland, you kind of never know.
I think he actually got injured. He was supposed to go and got injured.
Oh, they were injured. Oh,
So,
yes.
yeah,
For
yeah.
sure. You never know the Gregor but Townsend team sheet, but I have recovered. I am feeling a lot better. Thank goodness Finn did cook. But we've got talking about Finn. I mean, it leads to our first phase question. Is our first question of the week was describe your favorite rugby player, but wrong answers only. And Jared, I would love for you to say what you said to me about my favorite rugby player. You said off air, but I think the people need to hear how you cut me
Yeah,
down before this.
yeah, the greatest Scottish fluff of all time. Or the other one is he's a fly half and he's in the Scotland squad.
The thing is, I can't even hate on it. But I love some of the responses we also got on Twitter. Rian Lowe said, "A gigantic teenager, he gets regular praise for causing grievous bodily harm to his superiors." And obviously it has to be Ruan Fenter, but I'm like, those aren't wrong answers though. Except for
Exactly.
gigantic.
Yeah.
Like we all know that Ruan Fenter is going to gender against any rugby player that's older than him. That's the problem.
Yeah, the man plays angry rugby. Like I wouldn't be surprised if like he gets somebody to like swear at him and like before the game, like just give him a whole lot of crap. Or either that or he's got like some Michael Jordan fantasies with him, man. Like Hamish Watson when he played against Hamish Watson just said like hello to him in the tunnel and he like took it personally. Like why the fuck is he saying hello to me?
Yeah, 100%. But Jared, I was trying to figure these out. Some of the ones on Twitter. I was trying to figure out, but let's see if you know. So Ryan Bralowitz, excuse me if I didn't say it wrong. He says a 10 who can't pass but can do anything he wants with his feet. Goal kicks on the halfway line, no problem. 22s, at least 3 a game. Perfectly struck up and unders, the only method of attack. Oh, I was thinking Elton Yankees.
Yeah, I think it could be Elton, but it could also be Finn. It could also be Danny Cipriani. It could also be Quay Cooper. There's quite a few like that really could be.
Because I was thinking, I'm like, go kick the halfway line. When Alton normally doesn't take it from the halfway line. I was thinking, that's actually a tough one. But here's another one from Sheldon Lawrence. Shortest guy with the smallest arms. Has the perfect head of hair of all time. And always shies away from contact and never gets into fight and has never had his jersey ripped apart.
That's Evan Etzebeth.
Surely has to. I was still the same. He had me at his jerseys never ripped apart. I think no one goes through more Springbok jerseys than Evan Etzebeth in a season.
Yeah, and they're supposed to be tight fits, eh? Just shows you how somebody's grabbing onto him.
Yeah. And in this one, the last one from Ganjama says, Always came in from the side, biggest cheater ever. So it can't be Richie McCaw.
Yeah. David Pocock.
Surely, 100%. Because I mean, like I said, Richie McCaw lived in this coming on the side of the field, on the side of the rack.
Exactly. Okay, Kooks. So I'll throw one off at you. He never got yellow. He never got yellow carded for a hard tackle, and he played for the Wallabies. Fly off. I think that's how it's supposed to work. This one.
He never got carded. Okay, so he only got carded for a high tackle. You're talking on Farrell?
No, but it's a good guess.
No. You said you said he never got carded, so it's definitely not John Farrell. He never gets carded for his high tackles.
Did you see what he got carded for this week? Yep, Butch James is the right answer. Did you see what Owen Farrell got yellow carded for this week though?
No, I didn't. What did he do?
He tripped Jack Noel just before he was about to get the ball. So he came from an offside position. As Noel was about to get the ball, he tripped him, and the Exeter scrum half passed it to Noel, and as he caught the ball while he was tripping.
That is unbelievable. I feel like he'll get a yellow card for everything but a high tackle.
Yeah, so when I saw that he got a yellow card, I went like searching through the game. I was like convinced that he actually got yellow carded for a hard tackle. And then I saw it, I was like, no way, come on.
Oh my goodness, that is. But I'm telling you, that Oak knows how to avoid high tackles. I mean, and yellow cards. It's like him. The same way Johnny Sexton avoids being yellow carded for what you call it, for whining at the referee. There's a skill there.
Yeah. Like Sexton won't even be captain, and he'll be able to get away with back chatting the referee, kind of thing.
No, it's crazy. But that's it for our first phase this week. This week, just warning you, it is going to be a great week for Rugby Bits, because we have this pod on normal on Monday, and we also got a guest coming on. So just watch out for those 2 pods coming. But also looking ahead, Jared, this week for SA sides, it is Derby weekend. We got some SA Derbies again. The Bulls taking on the Sharks in Loftus, and then we also have the Lions versus Stormers. If you had to make a quick prediction for the Lions Stormers game, would you got in Ellis Park?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Stormers. I think with Kitsoff and Malherbe up front, and I think they got the power to knock the Lions back. So I would go with the Stormers.
Yeah, that's a great shot. I'm gonna go Stormers. I think I was going to go for the upset, but you're right. I think with Kitsoff and Malherbe back, I think it does sway the decision slightly, and obviously the Stormers, being the form. I mean, they're both the form side. They're both coming off a loss, but I think the Stormers will just have to. I think it'll be close, but I think the Stormers will. I think, I mean, obviously having dealt now with the Stormers, I think it's fair for us to stay in the coast and deal with the Barbarians. I mean, sorry, the Sharks. It feels like a Barbarian side with all the internationals in there, but For them, it's been, I don't know, their start is, it's like, because the Sharks, I don't know what you, Jerry, you think. It feels like there's two sort of different teams. The Sharks with all the box back, and then the Sharks without all the box back. And we saw a glimpse of what they can do when all the box back in the Glasgow second half. And I think it's a Glasgow second half, and it's a pity they didn't play against Arsenal this weekend. But what do you make of the first 5 games the Sharks have played this year?
Yeah, I think it's been a decent start for the Sharks. I think that Dragons game that they won by 1 point. I think they could have been a bit more clinical in that game. But a win's a win. And then they had the really testing job of facing Ulster in Dublin, which is never easy. So, yeah, I think they put up a good fight against Leinster, but the quality of the two sides just showed in the end. And if the Sharks had their books, I think they would have done a little bit better. I think we'll start seeing a lot more from them. Like last week was the first time that Neil Powell has like really taken over the Sharks, and he was fronting up the media as well. So yeah, it sounds like he's pretty much taken on like the team selections as well and the general game plan of the side. And yeah, he's got quite a good staff backing him up. So I think it's onwards and upwards for the Sharks from now on. But yeah, the game against the Bulls will definitely be the main focal point. And yeah, litmus test, should we put it that way?
And sure, I mean, I was saying with the Sharks, obviously having, it does feel like they have almost have two squads, with one of the boxing and one without the box, and obviously for them it's all about creating cohesion and spending more as much time as they can together. Do you think now, because obviously they'll play the Bulls in the box, sort of go back on the end of the year tour, do you think the Sharks are probably the most affected because now they go into this run now needing sort of build cohesion, build continuity? How do you see them going in this last bit now? Because they got the Bulls and they're back in SA for a bit, but they're losing some of their box. How do you see them going after this weekend?
I think they're going to struggle because, I think it's been quite evident that they've been trying to find themselves and everything. And last week, the second half of the game, it pulled together. This week, the game was cancelled. So, it's really hard to get that continuity and things going. But Neil Powell and the rest of the coaching staff and Shaun Everett are going to be really driving it home, like carry on building on what we had and what we were going for and just deal with the disruptions. The Sharks are going to have to deal with the disruptions. They're going to have to learn how to deal with it. There's no ways they're going to escape it. They are going to have it going forward, and that's just the way that they've made up their squad. They want to be competitive in Europe and the URC. They're going to need to do it with a good bit of youth, talented youth coming through and a whole bunch of Springboks. And this is their current truth. This is their reality. This is how they have to do things moving forward, and they need to find a solution on how to make sure they evolve from squad to squad, with and without the Springboks and with all the disruptions.
What I found very interesting last week when the coach spoke was Neil Powell was sort of saying that it's now time for the youngsters to like prove themselves and come through the ranks at the Sharks and start getting players into the senior squad, while Jake White was like on the opposite end of the spectrum, where he's saying that he's speaking to his directors and the guys that make the big decisions above him and he's telling them we have to get more experienced players in from overseas because we have all of this crop of local young talented players, but he actually needs the experience in the within the ranks to develop these players properly. So I just thought it was like a random extra that these two coaches or these two teams are in completely different scenarios in their like development through the season.
It's so important to remember that, and I'm so glad that you picked that up and have brought it up, Joe, because every coach approaches things differently. They all have their own philosophies and their own views and their own opinions on how things go. And essentially, you want the head coach and everyone buying into him and what he wants, and it must be executed. Like, for argument's sake, the Crusaders. We know the Crusaders. If you're going to beat them, you want to beat them in the beginning of the season. They're notorious slow starters, and they gain momentum and they get going, and then towards the end of the season, they're firing on all their cylinders. And that's the thing that we need to probably respect a little bit more in South African rugby, about what's happening with the coaches, what they want, what their philosophy is. It's really hard when you have tough seasons. It's difficult to gauge with a side like the Stormers, because I think it wasn't planned that way last year, that they were going to just go forward and dominate at the end. And you'd expect sides like the Bulls and the Sharks to be much stronger, to be more stable because of the experience and quite frankly, the checkbook that they've got. You're expecting them to have players, management, everyone involved to make the move from one type of squad, like a Springbok loaded one, to the other type of squad, the non-Springbok loaded one, to make that movement with a little bit more ease.
Yeah, 100% sure. Every time you think of the Sharks, I think we've mentioned in the previous pods that if there's ever a side that needs to spend a lot more time together with all their players, it's probably the Sharks. But you look at that second half performance, it's like the quality they possess, the box that come in, they sort of almost clicked back into shape in the second half, and they scored some phenomenal tries. But I think I've got to ask them, Jared loves his loose forwards. Is there a better loose trio in the URC than Siya Kolisi, Vincent Chuka, Pepsi Buthelezi, and on the bench you can have either Dylan Richardson, James Fento, or Skumbuza Noche? There can't be many better loose trios than that, or loose forward pack than that.
Yeah, I don't think there is too many better. I will say, though, that the Bulls back loose trio has been incredible this season, and they were just as good this last weekend. Like, Marco Verstappen is starting to look like Marco van Staden that knocked the lights out of the All Blacks. And and Marcel Coetzee had a proper Marcel Coetzee match, and then Ulrich Loh was doing his bits as well. And yes, him going down injured was harsh, but yeah, maybe we just need to see the Sharks loose trio get a good running. I think the Lions will argue that they've got just as a strong one with Emmanuel there, with Frankie Horn and Frankie Horn and Ron Fencer. So yeah, I think there's some good back rows running around there, and that's not to even dive into Leinster and Munster and Ulster with Paul there at Ulster as well.
I love that transition into that young Lions loose trio, which has been incredible. I think, going to the Lions, I saved them for last because I think for me, they've been probably the best story to come out of our URC season for the South African sides. Arguably, we thought that coming to the season, the Lions would probably struggle, and the number of players have lost, and we just sort of felt like it would be a tough season for them. For them to have started so well, unbeaten on tour. I mean, winning 3 games on tour, and coming back. I mean, tough loss to Ulster, but just the players that have come through, the Ron Fenters, the Henko van Veeks, the Frankie Horns, Quinn Horn, Gianni Lombard. I mean, some of the names that Ron Dre has been. He's been fantastic. Probably has the offload of the season so far of the competition. But Shaun, has there been a better story than the Lions so far in the URC?
Nah. But the only one that would rival it probably would be the Dragons, just because they've got a couple of wins already this season. But the Lions have, with what they've got, they've got a side that really, the thing I love about it is they've got a side that you will never ever look at those players individually, with the greatest respect to them. And before this tournament, you wouldn't look at those players and go, they're really going to rip us apart. Jaden Hendricks is one of them, but he's been injured for so long. Marius Lowe, who's been phenomenal. Everyone seems to think that he failed it at the Sharks and that he couldn't cut the mustard. Henko van Wyk, youngster, stuff like that. Sanele Nohamba, same thing. Manuel Chituka, we all know he's good, but he's playing in the shadow of his brother. And you're kind of looking at that going, they've got some old boys there and stuff. And I think the biggest win for me with the Lions is they have very, very quietly got two exceptionally competitive front rows. And that has been something that we haven't seen. We talk about sides with competitive front rows. We're talking about the Sharks. We're not South African sides, because the Stormers, we know they pretty much only have one competitive front row, 1.5 maybe. The Bulls, we know, are struggling. And here are the Lions who, again, with the greatest respect, are picking up the scraps or having to sell off their stars. And they've got front rows where they're starting on the bench that will win you penalties in a match. And we never really expected that from them. That's been one of the things that have been flying under the radar. The whole Lions team, everything about them, their youngsters, their form, their mindset has all been flying under the radar. But for me, the front rows, both of them have been one of the big wins for the Lions.
Shaun, I think you're right there, Shaun, with their competitiveness at scrum time. But it's still, they're having a similar problem as what the Stormers have had. Stormers have had it for over a season now, is their line-out. And the Bulls are having that same problem with their line-out. So I think if the Lions can sort out, get a proper hooking throws sorted, they're going to be a real tough side to take down.
And Jared, if you look at the Lions, I mean, I think, like you said, that the prop depth has been incredible. Morris Lowe is probably an unsung hero. I mean, I love what Shaun said. He struggled with the Sharks, but I mean, I think with the Sharks was sort of an unsung hero. I mean, he was playing 12, 13, covering for Lukhanyo Amya. I just probably never felt like a starter with the Lions. He's become one of the key players, and he's playing week in, week out, and sort of knows that he's probably one of the best players in the field. But I think it's time to have the Henko van Wyk conversation. And Jared, I mean, you've put out many threads on how good he is. Just tell us what makes this kid so special, and do you think we might see him spending some time in Europe in November?
Yeah, I think it's quite difficult not to see him in that South African A squad. Like, I'm not too sure what the coach's thinking is and that kind of thing. But there's so much Lukhanyo vibes around him. His ability to his ability on defense to read when to make a tackle, and it sounds so silly, but when not to tackle. Like, there's so many times where he's pushed up onto a player and he waits for that player to make the decision before he makes his decision. So he'll either force a player into running the ball up, then chop him down, or he'll force the player to make a pass that's really not a great option in the end. So being able as a outside center to make your final call on what to do is so pivotal, and it's such a test quality center thing to do. And for him to do it at his age and so effectively right now is a kind of thing that you could see him accelerate his development into a test jumper. Whether he is a Springbok quality yet or not is one of those conversations, but I think he has to be in that South Africa A team and possibly make the Boks wider squad.
Yeah, I'm not going to agree on everything, Jared. I think he doesn't give me Lukhanyo vibes. He gives me a 19-year-old world-class 13 vibe. Like, he definitely plays 13 differently. He plays 13 more how we are used to seeing a 13 play. Lukhanyo is an absolute natural. The thing is what Lukhanyo does is it doesn't look like he's doing it, and he's doing it, where Henko van Wyk does. And that's the thing. Like, he pushes up and then he holds off, and he's young and he's got the vision. It's just he's just got to get into it being a little bit more fluid because he's got his pace to save him. And I'm by no means saying that he's not I'm not trying to talk the youngster down. There's no ways I am. I'm just saying I think he's quite a very, very different player compared to Lukhanyo even though they're playing both in the same space. It took South Africans and a lot of people a long time to get used to Lukhanyo playing at 13, even though we all thought he was natural, but he has grown so much since, even since 2019 already. So it's a great thing. I think he is absolutely class at 13. I think, I suppose he's 19, so I don't want to sound like I'm too harsh, but he really does. He's the best performing 13 in South Africa by a long shot. And on that alone, he has to go on as the first choice SAA player. We are going to be mixing the SAA and Springbok side. The SAA are only announcing 20 players, and they're going to be pulling down from the Springbok squad on for match day and for training, which we're all well aware of. But if you're looking, I think the bonus is because we have an SAA side that we are able to pull out of the Springboks, we are allowed and have the ability to name a completely formed youngish squad, because we can bring the experience in from the Springboks if need be. And remember that experience could come in a fringe player in the Springboks, someone like an Elstad, for example, or a Dion Fourie, who is still working his way into the Springbok squad, but can provide a hell of a lot of knowledge in vital areas. And that's what I'm so excited about is this SAA squad. We don't have to pick an SAA squad that is on its own, where we kind of need to name an experienced 10 to help a young 9 and a young 12, or we don't need to name an experienced tight head prop for whatever reason. Like, we have the opportunity to name young, form, and up and coming guys, and then can sort of sprinkle in the Springbok, the fringe Springboks later on in match week.
Yeah, I agree with you, Shaun, as well. Maybe I was unfair going with the Lukhanyo comparison. I think it is a bit of an unfair thing to do, but I actually meant more in his defensive awareness. I haven't seen that kind of awareness from another player this young since probably Lukhanyo and Jesse Kriel has sort of learned that as he's gone along in his career. So yeah, 13s is always such a big learning curve for a lot of players, and he seems to have caught up with that very, very quickly. And having Jacques Fourie there certainly helps.
Yes, and you bang on though. If we are honest, there are the three best defensive 13s that are eligible to play for the Springboks right now. It's Lukhanyo, Jesse Kriel, and Henko van Wyk. Defensive 13s, that is massive. We've got guys that are good 13s that can fill a gap, but from a defensive point of view, he is head and shoulders above everyone else. Ironically, I know we spoke about him at 10, but Rob du Preez played a lot of 13 last season for Sale, and his defense, he defended relatively well. But if we're looking at who's in the mix at the moment, in South Africa, it's a little bit challenging. I think Ruan Nel maybe puts his hand up, but he's currently injured, and Ruan Nel very likely would have been the front runner for the SAA 13 had he played this season, because him at 13 is absolute class. But for the top three defending 13s that we currently have, one is injured in Lukhanyo, one is the first choice Springbok 13 in Jesse Kriel at the moment, and the other one has to be Henko van Wyk.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, Francois Venter is back on the Springbok radar. It was quite interesting listening to Rassie, and they asked if it hurts that any of the players from Wasp or Worcester are, if they're not in the if they're not playing, are they overlooked? And he said, well, we look at something like 65 players when we're selecting the squad, and we earlier had Vincent Koch at Wasps, and there was no players from Worcester. So, yeah, maybe he comes back into the conversation at some stage.
Yeah, I definitely think. I mean, geez, like there's a stage we also questioned at the start of the year, like who can we get to cover Lucanio? And now we've got 3 or 4 options there. So at least we've been able to build depth at 13. But I mean, looking towards that SAA and box squad that's being named on I think it's Friday. Yeah. I want to ask you guys, who is your? You can name one player each. You can be forward or back. Who's the one bolter you'd like to see, whether in the SAA side or the Springbok squad? Who's the one guy that you feel like, even if it's your own personal player, your own favorite that the streets might not even want, but who's a player you guys would love to see going to Europe this year? I'll start with you, Sharky.
Yeah, see, man, why you always hit me up first? Jaden Hendrickson.
Jordan, you mean?
That's what I said. I'm so sorry. Jordan. I want Jordan. I want Jordan.
Has something happened to Jaden Hendrickson that we don't know about in the last couple of weeks? Do you know something we don't know?
Every single one of the dirt trackers picked up their phone to hit Google and find out what the hell's going on. I'm sorry. Yeah, so that's who my pick is. Jordan. I'd like Jordan to go. Like Manny Libbok's getting a massive shot. So is Buddha Chamberlain. There are a couple of guys that are putting their hands up, but I think Jordan, even though he's just coming back from injury, I would love to see him in that mix in the Springbok fold, because the SAA side are going to spend time with the Springbok coaches. They're going to be around those players in their environment, and I think he needs to go.
Oh, that's a great shout. I do think Jordan Henderson is a big part of our future. Still a little bit raw, but I'm a massive Jordan Henderson fan. I think there's a lot there, and I think, especially like you said, the time to spend time at camp, and even not playing, but just to be in and around. And Jared, who's the player you'd love to see going on tour?
I don't know if he really constitutes as a bolter, but I would love to see Marco van Staden back in a Springbok jersey. This last weekend he really impressed me, and I would love to see him back there. But if we're going to really go with the bolter, I'd say Suleiman Hutzenberg. Like, I'd really love to see him get a go. Like, he's really impressed me, the step up he's made and how quickly he's done it. I think Diamani would also be a decent shot. I think
there's my man I wanted to talk about, and I could only name one, and I really was struggling, but I was totally going to bring. I was totally going to bring Diamani up because, yeah, I agree. I just want to say I agree totally, and I would love, and we could spend the rest of the podcast talking about him, because now that you brought him up. Kooks, who's yours?
Oh, my one, this is going to sound from our left field. I would love to see Marius Lowe sort of. Oof. I think Marius Lowe is almost the best of both worlds in terms of a 12 where he can bash it up, but also has good enough skills to he's almost like a smaller version of Damien Delindia. And like, I think the form he's shown, I think it'll be nice to sort of see where the box kind of have as a plan C at all. I know we have Andre Estes, and then Andre Estes is playing really good rugby, but I think someone like Marius Lowe is someone who's got great soft skills. I mean, his defensively has been good. I mean, and the form he's in, I think it does deserve a reward. I think he'll offer something different to what Damien and Andre Estes can provide. And I know obviously Damien Williams who could fill in at 12, but you sort of, Marius Lowe sort of fits in more of the traditional box centre than someone like Damien Williams, who's obviously been playing 15 and 10. But that'll be my bolter. I mean, obviously, I think Moen Lebok is, everyone is named. That's who they expect to see, someone like Moen Lebok. And I just want to talking about Mondelbach, this is my time for the dirt trackers. If you know anyone on Twitter, just if dirt trackers, if you're a Mondelbach fan, just get ready to defend him, because if Lebok has even a half decent game, you're going to get those Lebok haters jumping on there, ready to be like, I told you this guy's bad. This is why he wasn't made it at the Sharks. This is why he didn't make it at the Bulls. Oh, it drives me crazy. He came out this weekend as well. He did a good games. Like, this is what the Bulls let him go. This is what my guys, Mondelbach, Kooks. I think he could be played a similar role that Elton played for a long time, something different off the bench. But yeah, I'd love to see Marius Low sort of, it's almost get recognition for his form, even if it's at SAA side. I don't know what you guys think.
Can I throw a few other names out there and we just can revive that? Is Harold Forster, thinking about inside centre. I think he's
probably the best of the 12s at the moment.
Yeah, Harold Forster is a great shot.
David Creel, I think he's been great at centre and at fullback and at wing. So I think he probably deserves a good shot. And then, some luck for the fatties. Carly Sardi. I would love to see that man get in a Springbok jersey, especially if they have one big enough for him.
It's the shorts I'm worried about, not the shirt, mate. Those are great calls. I tell you, I want to go back to the Diamani conversation. I was always going to do it, so you guys can roll your eyes all you want. I think maybe why we didn't put him down, because he doesn't fit into that Baltic category for us. Diamani has been head and shoulders in the top performing Lucies, in the South African eligible Lucies in the URC last year and this year. And then he played 8 on the weekend. So I think we probably, in our defense, is we're probably expecting him to walk into that squad. And that's maybe why he didn't get any one of those things. Am I making excuses here? Or you guys understand what I'm trying to put down?
I didn't make any excuses. I'd be surprised if he is in the squad.
What?
I'd be surprised if he's in the squad. I really would be. I don't know if he quite fits the template of what the Hawks want out of their loose forwards.
If Evan Rose can fit it, then so can Hachiva Diamani, because they play the same style. And Hachiva can play all round.
If Noche got a recall and they didn't call Diamani,
I wouldn't mind that. But listen, while we're on, Namataba is that guy has been putting his hand up this season.
No, he has. I'm a massive Namataba fan. I just think, but as open as it's tough, because you get someone like Rowan Fenter is also playing really well. And you think of Kwaka Smith can't get a start, and he's probably the backup for Sia as a loose forward. The Dion Ferries there as well. I think if you're looking at open siders, I think it's between him and Rowan Fenter. And I think it's a weird one. I think because Namataba has been amazing. So I think either if you had to pick another open sider to go, it's probably either between those two for the SAA side.
I think you can pick them both, and you can start them both. Fenter's a big boy. He can play as a blindside.
6.5, sir.
Yeah, 6.5. No, seriously, Fenter does get over the ball quite a bit, but he is more of a second rower. So it would be like having a Tag Burn in your side. So Ireland often play Tag Burn with Peter Amani in the same starting lineup.
It'd be like having a younger, faster, more agile Peter Steph Toy, which is virtually impossible, but I think we've uncovered him.
Yeah. And then you can throw someone like Pepsi Buthelezi there at number 8, and he can just do your big ball carrying, tackling, and you have those two guys jackling.
So I'd like to talk about Buthelezi, because I have a feeling that he's not as close to this SAA side as people think. I'm not I rate him. I just don't think that he's translated those performances, all of that into like proper stand-up performances. And to be fair, it's been with a struggling Sharks side most of the time. But when it comes to 8s, I think it's not as clear cut that he goes.
I think what they will like about him is that he's a grafter. He's not a flashy number 8. Like Evan Roos is all flash, and Auricolo is very hardworking. So I think Buthelezi might get a bit more of an edge now that Lowe's out and Roos has gone into the Springbok setup and not the SAA setup.
Yeah, I was going to say, someone like Pepsi. Pepsi just, I think Pepsi, he does 10 things great, and he just ticks boxes, hits all the rugs, tackles, carries. Yeah. He sort of doesn't make the big flashy play. Ross is an incredible ball carrier, so it's like Evan Ross will bounce someone or do something fantastic in once a game. It's so easy. But I think that's not like Pepsi. Ross is a lot good. Well, I was one of the few people on the Ross camp, but I think like Pepsi, he just ticks so many boxes, and he's just a grafter, and he adds so much balance to that side. If you look at, especially the way the Sharks use Sia, the Sharks tend to use Sia a lot more wider, and then you got someone like Sh1t also is another big ball carrier, and also just great in the loose. Like someone like Pepsi sort of is that glue between those two, where he does all the dirty work that sort of allows someone like Vincent Sia to cook a lot more, especially in the loose. So I think Pepsi is very, very underrated. And like I said, I'd definitely like to see that. I think him and Noche obviously is a massive competition for that 8 jersey, but it's like it's so weird with the Sharks. Like it's one of those things. Like if like Sia Kolisi plays a 6 and Chuka the flanks, you kind of play Pepsi there, so as a glue guy. But like let's say for example, you play James Fenty at 6. And you play like a Vincent Chuka at 7, you sort of need someone like a Noche, an extra ball player, if that makes sense. Like that's the kind of the options the Sharks can use with Pepsi and Noche. I think the SSI it's a great variety to have. Sorry, I didn't throw it in. I don't know if you guys agree or not.
No. I think you've listed off all these potential back row combinations just for the Sharks, and I think piecing it together for the SAAs is going to be the sort of thing of, okay, we need to get Springbok X a bit of game time, and so we want him to play the SAA game. So I think that's one spot taken, and the rest of the back row will sort of be made up of the SAA players getting a chance to sort of show themselves. So so for example, let's say Reinhard Alstad is selected on the tour. I wouldn't be surprised Reinhard Alstad goes into the starting lineup and they build the back row from there. So if that's a Marco van Staden coming in at number 7 or number 6, the open side role, and then you need you need a big ball carrying number 8 to fill out that back row. So I think that's where a lot of the selections might actually come down to, is who needs minutes for the box. Okay, cool. Who is going to best fit this guy with the setup?
Yeah, that has to be the approach if we're going to be honest with ourselves. Like we need guys firstly that play in the Springbok mold. This is not going to be a South African barbarian side that are going to go out and just go hell for leather. Like if we can't have that, it doesn't benefit us as a group in the future. So doing it that way is probably the most stable way of doing it, and the best way of seeing which of those soon-to-be puzzle pieces are going to fit into the squad moving forward. And we have to do it that way. We've got to be looking ahead to having players that are going to best fit into certain game plans and styles that will benefit us next year and the year after. Like as soon as possible from a Springbok point of view. And the other thing is as what the Springboks do is every player is going to go back home with the roadmap, as Russie's sort of called it, and how the guys refer to it. They go back with things that they need to work on and how they're going to better themselves in their Springbok futures.
100%. It's going to be exciting. I think obviously come squad announcement day, I think it's one of the few squad announcements that's generally got people buzzing because there's new names, new guys coming in with the SA side. It's going to be exciting because obviously the times you kind of know the box squad and who's playing 3 months in advance. So it's going to be exciting to know now who the bolters are and who the guys going on tour and what the what the shape-up will be for the last couple of games. But before we wrap up, I mean, this weekend, the Euro, guys, it is SA Derbies. So I'm going to ask you guys for a quick prediction. Jared, Sharks, Lions Stormers coming up first at Ellis Park on Saturday. Who you got, Lions or Sharks? I mean, Lions or Stormers?
Stormers. Yeah, I think they just got too much of a meme pack for the Lions, and Kits off my herb sort of seen them through.
And you, Sharky, Lions or Stormers?
I'm going with the Lions, and for the same reason why Jared is going for the Stormers, I'm going because of their pack.
That's a brave aspect. I'm going Stormers, but I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a massive battle up front, and I'm going Stormers, championship pedigree and all. You're going to say those words now about the Stormers every time we make these picks. Then Bulls versus Sharks. Sharky, Sunday, Loftus. Bulls are back on tour. Sharks probably with the box back, or the box will be back before they go on the tour. Possible Springbok trials for some. Who you got?
I got the Sharks with a bonus point win.
Ooh. Oh, jeepers. Okay. I'll see what your bets are for this weekend. If you get those right, you're going to make a lot of money this weekend. Dinner on you for the next weekend. You, Jared?
Done.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Sharks. I don't know about a bonus point, but the Bulls have been very successful against the South African sides since Jake has come back, especially at Loftus. And I think the Sharks are one of the bogey teams that have got it right. So I think they'll do it again, especially when they got Evanes, Sia Khaleesi, and a whole list of other Springboks.
Oh, I'm going Bulls at home. For me, I think, Jared, you're making my case for me. I think you look at the last couple of years, the Bulls have had dominance a bit of the SA sides, and I've seen them put together big performances against the Sharks. So I think the Bulls may edge it at home, but yeah, it's going to be exciting. But guys, that's it for this week. There's a lot of rugby coming up this week. Some very good rugby. I know the Barbarians are playing this week, so we get a little bit of international rugby as well. So as we start looking forward to the end of the year tour, and from our side, we've got something special coming leading up to the national end of the year tour. When you might hear our voices a lot more. So it's going to be a great month and a couple of weeks of great rugby. This weekend is going to be jam packed. I mean, for all of those, I mean, we will have something special regarding the Women's Rugby World Cup, so we won't keep you in the lurch too much. And then obviously this week is also the playoffs for the Women's Rugby World Cup. Shaun, quickly, I know you've been watching a lot of the Women's Rugby World Cup. Just tell us, who do you think are the favourites to win it all? I mean, it's the playoffs this weekend. I know France, Italy is going to be an absolute cracker. I think Italy might steal that. But overall, so far, the pool stages, who are your two favourites?
Well, it has to be England and New Zealand. But I tell you now, New Zealand at home, they are up for it. We are in for absolute cracking semi-finals, by the way. I think the two semi-finals are going to be phenomenal. But I'm going to go with England and New Zealand. But New Zealand, for me, have to be the favourites at the moment. I think it's going to be a great battle between England and New Zealand if they reach each other, which as things work out, they will if they win the rest of the way. But New Zealand, for me, I think are slightly ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I think New Zealand at home. I think England's going to lose a game somehow. It's been since 2019, so I think they've got to lose a game somehow. But
that's possible.
No, 100% with Wayne Smith there. But guys, thank you, Jared. Thank you, Sharky. We've fought all the technical difficulties, load shedding, lightning storms to get this pod up. Remember to make your bets on bets.co.za. Guys, enjoy the rugby this weekend and see you guys soon.
See you later. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.